You guys ready? You ready? I'm ready. All right. Welcome, guys. It is week 5 recap show. I'm your host, Mr. Dean, Jeff Dean. Call me JD. Let's break down week 5 for you guys. Honestly, there's nothing on these papers. We got everything on the screen here for you guys. So, week 5, let's look at the matchups for the games. We'll look at the games, and then we'll get right into fantasy matchups that we got. That is week 5. That is going to determine the playoffs for week 6. So the first matchup that we have was the Vipers versus the Bears. And look at all the points that were scored. It ended up being 55-45 Bears over the Vipers, scoring 55 burger on the Vipers, who are a really good team. Both these teams came into this matchup 3-1, I believe. They are considered two of the best teams, so it is pretty exciting to see these two go head-to-head. And look at the Bears scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter. Damn. All right, now next matchup was the Scorpions and the Sharks. I know this was one of the fan favorites because of the fourth quarter and how it played out. And holy smokes, look at the Sharks, 44 big ones over the Scorpions. Can you believe it? 44 big ones from a team that is known for being a defensive team. Shuts out the Scorpions in the first quarter and then lays it into them. Sharks and Taylor Glover, and I believe it was Sleepy Garrett, had a humongous day in week 5. Next matchup here, we got the Tigers and the Wolverines. Holy smokes, 35-30. Even this game, the Wolverines were somehow able to win it and pull it off, and they didn't even score in the fourth quarter. And they still end the game with 35 points, beating the Tigers. And holy smokes, Tigers in 2 quarters only scoring 9 points there is just not going to do it against a high-powered offense like the Wolverines. And then the fourth matchup of the weekend, the fourth and final matchup of the weekend, was the Lions versus the Dragons. Hope you got to watch this game because it really came down to the wire. What a great game it was. Lions prevail even though they scored no points in the third quarter. The Dragons were able to slow them down, but the second quarter, look at that, 21 points. Mark McCoy getting it to Malvin Hudson. Malvin Hudson, I believe, had 2 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and their running back, Darren Page, the Lions running back, had 4 total touchdowns. Absolute thriller. So that was an exciting game. Now for the highly anticipated matchups. I know everybody wants to see this because everybody really wants to know what happened with the matchups. We had the Favorites versus the Spartans, and that is the first matchup that we're going to look at. And boom, there it is. Spartans lose to the Favorites. When you look at the scores right away, first thing that stands out is 56 points by Darren Page, running back from the Lions for the Spartans, gets 56 fantasy points and still is unable to win because look at the bottom half of the team. Rick Martin, Julian Rucker, and Andre Hillard combined for 10 points for 3 players, and that's just unacceptable. Even Jamal Olsen with only 5 total points. It really was just Brent Gibbons and Darren Page and Evan Watkins. Then you look at Favorites, look at them. William Hillard does it again, 248 yards, 4 touchdowns, ends the game with 48 fantasy points. Then Sleepy Garrett, the Sharks were able to come out big offensively in week 5, and Sleepy Garrett was the person that benefited. Sleepy Garrett, 5 catches, 214 yards, and 2 touchdowns, ending with 38 fantasy points. Can you believe it? And also Des Edwards getting 16 fantasy points with 93 yards, 7 catches. Chester Manley gets another 100 yards, finishes with 16 points. John Waters even gets a touchdown. And John Anderson does not do much but gets 4 points. But Derek Albright, 39 points. And the Spartans lose to the Farverts. And Farverts go 4-1. Now for the next matchup that I know everyone's anticipating to see. Here it is. This is the Balls Deep versus the Impact Players. And here it is, guys. Balls Deep loses to Impact Players 51-48, only a 3-point difference. We tallied the points. I did it 2 to 3 times. We're going to release all the stats and everything, so you're welcome to retally the score, and I please encourage you to do it. But holy smokes, I did it a few times, and it comes down to 3 points. First thing, you look at this right away, you see Barry Perkins having a huge day for the Balls Deep. 8 catches, 152 yards and a touchdown. Ends with 29 fantasy points. Even Mark Missile McCoy, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 37 fantasy points. RJ Barbershop comes through with 91 yards and 2 big touchdowns, ends with 21 fantasy points. CJ Diggs even has a touchdown, 11 fantasy points. Ryan Dillon went on fire in the back half of this season. Ryan Dillon, 5 catches, another 100-yard game and 2 touchdowns, 27 fantasy points. Garrett Spence, big pickup for the Balls Deep, 5 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown, 18 yards. Lonnie Steffens was unable to take it to the house, which he's been doing all season. Ends with only 5 fantasy points and only gets 148, which at first seemed like it was enough to do it, but then Impact Players comes through huge at the end of the Dragons game, I believe it was, and gets away with 151 points. Tyler Glover, 4 touchdowns, 383 yards, almost 400 yards, 39 fantasy points. Sneaky Tiki Carter, 115 yards and a touchdown, ends with 19 fantasy points. Keon Turner was unable to get it done. The Wolverines kind of struggled there to throw it. Got it mostly to CJ Diggs, I believe, benefited the most from that aerial attack, and Keon Turner ends with 5 fantasy points. But Edgar Plummer getting 49 points on Thursday, 8 catches, 238 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Holy bananas. Edgar Hottest Summer Plummer gets it done with 49 fantasy points. Josh Buchanan, or Josh Shot out of Buchanan, 6 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown, finishes with 20 fantasy points. Rashad Pleasant has been having a good last couple of games, but this game only gets 4 catches for 57 yards, I believe. Almost broke away from a few plays, but ends the game with 9 fantasy points. Elijah Lloyd getting a touchdown late in the Dragons game. Was that the winner for Impact Players? Elijah Lloyd, 2 catches, 26 yards, and a touchdown, 10 points, gets it done. And Impact Players beats Balls Deep. So congratulations to Impact Players, and sorry to Balls Deep, but holy smokes, what a great season by Balls Deep, and what a great season by Impact Players. And I'm really excited to see both of these players and see what Impact Players can do as well in the playoffs. All right, so now to the third and final matchup of the weekend for fantasy points. It's the Dog Pound versus Hate Club here, and here we are. Boom! Dog Pound loses to Hate Club 126 to 121. Can you believe it? It is hard to believe. But the first thing you notice right away is look at the bottom half of Dog Pound with Tito Snow, Doug Burrow, and Terrell Strong. combining for only 13 points. 121 points could have been enough, but Hate Club comes through with 126 points and beats Dog Pound. And let's take a look at the playoffs, how they were. Congratulations, obviously, to Hate Club and Dog Pound, but let's take a look at the total points, and we'll see who made it in, because it's going to be real close. Anquan Seymour finishes with 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but hold on. Before I get too excited, let's finish Dog Pound. Dog Pound, Tiny Thomas, only 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, 26 fantasy points. Jesse Stocks and Bonds, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Even got a catch for 34 yards and another touchdown. Jesse Bonds has an absolute great game. Took the Wolverines game single-handedly almost, and won it himself with 35 fantasy points. Shane Lott doing big things. 5 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown. 21 fantasy points is what he finishes with. Melvin Hudson, 2 catches, 128 yards on 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. All this boy does is catch touchdowns. Melvin Corner Store Hudson finishes with 26 fantasy points. Tito Snow, unable to do much all season, I believe. Tito Snow's been struggling all season, finishes with 3 fantasy points, and Doug Burrow finishes with 4 fantasy points, who's actually been playing really well, which I'm shocked Doug Burrow didn't do better. But Ryan Dillon was on fire that game with the Bears. And then Terrell Strong finishing with 6 fantasy points. And oh no, the Dog Pound loses the game, but on a real close one. And now look at the Hate Club. Look at this. Anquan Seymour, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, finishes with 40 fantasy points. Another huge week by Anquan Seymour. He has actually been playing really well since week 3. And Phil Clemens finishes with a casual 109 yards and 2 touchdowns, 22 fantasy points. Not even like blinking, not even really trying. Phil Clemens may be MVP of the season, considered MVP of the season. We're going to talk about that later. Then Blaine Strickland, 7 catches. It's only 60 yards, but got the touchdown, 19 fantasy points. And then big Darren Litton gets 9 big catches and 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. Holy smokes, Litton set him on fire. And Anquan Seymour and Darren Litton just had a crazy game there, and 40 points is what he ends up finishing with the star wide receiver Darren Litton. And then Woody Gordon struggling to get involved in that high-powered, lots of mouths to feed on that high-powered Lions offense, and Woody Gordon struggles to get on the board, gets 1 catch for 7 yards. And then Lawyer Wilkerson gets a big 0 and still wins the ball club. If he would have lost this game, Hate Club, by a really close margin, you would have started looking at Lawyer Wilkerson. But holy smokes, scores a 0. Lawyer needs a lawyer all the time. Wilkerson gets a 0 and still moves and wins the ball game. And Casey Buckley gets a catch, 31 yards, and finishes with 4 fantasy points. Holy smokes, can you believe that? We had a game go to 5 points, 5-point difference game, and a 3-point difference game. Holy smokes, is that absolutely incredible. And now let's take a look at the playoff standings, which people want to see and 2 people don't want to see. Here it is, guys. Playoff standings is Favorites finished with 4-1. Congratulations to the Favorites, finishing first place with 798 yards. William Hillard, their running back, and Derek Albright, their quarterback, have just been absolutely phenomenal. Both may be, if not the best at their positions. Congratulations to Spartans, finishing in second place. Finishing at 3-2, 721 points. They did really well in the second half of the season. It's doing really well with Brent Givens, and picking up Darren Page was a huge move by the Spartans. And then third place, congratulations to Hate Club, finishing at 3-2 with 719 points. Hate Club doing really well with Phil Clemens, their running back, and they have Anquan Seymour, who has just been absolutely on fire. And congratulations to Hate Club for them. And then fourth is Impact Players. They finish in fourth place. Congratulations to Impact Players, finishing at 2-3. They have 773 points, finishing second in the league for most points. Congratulations to them. They have two absolute phenomenal receivers in Josh Buchanan and Edgar Plummer. Just been doing really well. They have been struggling at running back, but their two wide receivers have been playing absolutely phenomenal. Definitely helped them win these ball games. And then fifth place is Dog Pound. Unfortunately, congratulations to everyone that made it, but I'm sorry, unfortunately, Dog Pound and Balls Deep are out of the playoffs, and they played an absolutely phenomenal season. But the story around fifth place Dog Pound is going to be about how they went 2-0 and then lost their last 3 games, went 0-3, and lost and missed the playoffs. And I'm sorry to rub a little bit of salt in there, in the wound, but damn, man, damn. That sucks. Sorry to hear that, Dog Pound. You had a great season. They have great players on that team. They finished with 738 points, 2-3. Dog Pound's got some great, phenomenal players on their team, with Jesse Stocks and Bonds catching the ball and leading the league with running backs for catches, and doing really well on the ground. Also, they have a really good receiving core there with Malvin Hudson and Doug Burrow. But the thing is that they really had something going on with the quarterback and quarterback controversy, maybe between the two quarterbacks, Brendan Platt and Tiny Thomas. So we'll look back at the season and see if that was the difference maker. But Dog Pound missing the playoffs at 2-3. And then sixth place is Balls Deep. Good season, Balls Deep. You played absolutely phenomenal, but unfortunately you missed the playoffs this season. Balls Deep has a phenomenal team. They honestly, besides Impact Players and, well, Dog Pound probably now. Here, let me refocus the camera. Balls Deep, I'm going to say, had the absolute worst scheduling luck, and not because they drafted really good players. When you look at the rankings, their two top receivers, Barry Perkins and CJ Diggs, are 2 out of the top 3 best receivers in the game ranking wise. And holy smokes, were the rankings wrong. The rankings were so wrong. There were a few players in there that were near the top, but holy smokes, those players, I feel real bad for Balls Deep because they did everything right, and the players just did not perform. Barry Perkins struggled after week 1, did very well, and then the rest of the season struggled and was on and off, and there was so much controversy for the Dragons organization, which he had the star wide receiver of, and they were just throwing it to Des Edwards and making bad decisions, and Brendan Platt ended up getting cut from the Dog Pound. So I understand the issue with them. And then also CJ Diggs got absolutely underused by Tiny Thomas and the Wolverines. They just didn't go to him. They just didn't. And I know they did do him this game that just passed in week 5, and I think he got some in week 4 as well. But holy smokes, they were feeding the ball to Keon Turner, and Keon was just getting 9 catches a game, and they were just running it and throwing all the other catches to Jesse Bonds. And CJ Diggs looking like he's frustrated and coming off the field, and he's looking fresh, got no stains on him, nothing. And it's like you guys are not using this guy effectively, and I blame that on the coaching and quarterback decision making of the Wolverines. Also, they had struggles balls deep with their star running back. CJ Barber is better than that. He's played better than, I know he's better than the way he's performed this season. He took it morally. So the thing is that I think the Dragons organization, that team struggled this season, and if they would have played better, Balls Deep would have had a better team, because Balls Deep lost a couple close ones, but they are heavily relying on the Dragons for their points because they got the star running back and they also had the #1 wide receiver. And I think that without those two positions coming through every week, it was really, really hard to win. So thanks for playing Balls Deep and Dog Pound. You guys played honorably, and I hope you guys will be back next season. I know you will be. And congratulations to the Farbrett Spartans Hate Club and Impact players on making it to the playoffs. And next week, let's take a look at next week's matchups for the playoffs. 1 versus 4th place will be Farbrett versus the Impact players next week. 1st seed versus the 4th seed in the CSFFL playoffs. First ever playoffs. So this is really exciting to see Farbrett go against the Miracle Team Impact players that came out of nowhere and somehow snuck into the playoffs. And let's see if they are deserved to be here, really. They have Taylor Glover, a great quarterback, and Edgar Plummer and Josh Buchanan, but almost every other position is struggling right now. Let's see if Keon Turner can have a big game. Look at the 3 big receivers that Impact player really has, right? So if Tiki Carter and Rashawn Pleasant can do anything, and the other 3 receivers can do what they're supposed to do, Impact players is looking good, right? They scored 2nd most points in the league for a reason. And then you look at the Farbrets. God damn Farbrets, man. I know everybody in the league feels this way. Damn you, Farbrets. Damn you. Because you got the best running back in the league, straight up. I'm going to say it. You got the MVP of the season. You got the best running back of the season. You got one of the best quarterbacks of the season, and then your 3rd receiver and your 1st receiver just ball out regularly, and your damn 4th receiver you pick up on a fly move because you're damn mad at Sean Cherry for other reasons. And look what Waters does for you. John drinks bong waters, comes through and gets 3 touchdowns for you, and it ain't eating nothing. 4-1 Farbrets, unbelievable. I know Impact players is excited about being in the playoffs, but they gotta be sweating, because I know that William Hillard's gonna come through big, because he does every week. So let's see how that game plays down in our first playoff matches, and whoever wins this match will have a first-class ticket seat in the championship game. So let's see who wins this game. I can't wait till next week. It's gonna be big. Okay, next ball game next week in the playoffs. The only other game right here is the Spartans in the 2nd seed and the Hate Club in the 3rd seed. Damn, man, look at Hate Club, 2-3. Phil Clemens, big boy Phil Clemens, sour lemons Phil Clemens. Oh my goodness, this boy is unbelievable. Who is the other candidate for MVP, who may end up being MVP of the season? Phil Clemens, one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the league, and set the record for most yards from scrimmage in a single game at 342 yards. 342 yards in the air and the ground. Holy smokes, right? Phil Clemens is no joke, right? And then Anquan Seymour. Anquan, give me some more Seymour. Are you kidding me? This guy is unbelievable, man. He throws a lot of touchdowns. He gets it done. They play from behind a lot because the Scorpions struggle, which gives Anquan the ball, and they don't run it that well with Tiki Carter. So you know he's throwing that up in the air to Josh shot out of a Buchanan. Or is it going to go to Darren Linton? Because Darren Linton had a huge game in week 5, so it could all go to Darren Linton. But Woody Gordon and Lawyer Wilkerson have been struggling, that's for sure. And Blaine Strickland is very, very consistent. But man, he's got a great team. There's a reason why he's 3-2. And then the Spartans, Evan Watkins and Jamal Olsen, Brent Gibbons, and the tight end are all from one team. So 4 out of their 7 players, think about this for a second, 4 out of their 7 players are all on one team. So they are very dependent on the Tigers doing really well. We'll look at the scheduling in the next video, but we don't have time for this video because we're already at 25 minutes. But in the next video, we'll go through all the stats of all the players, individual players, and we'll go through the schedule for the actual teams in the league. But look at the Spartans finishing at 3-2. They are 2nd seed and have scored a ton of points. They got that Darren Page, one of the best teams in the league, the Lions, their star running back Darren Page, and they got him. Also, they got Rick Martin, one of the star wide receivers for the Lions, so they're very dependent on the Lions and the Tigers game. So let's see how that plays out for the Spartans, and congratulations to everybody once again for winning and being in this league. I hope you had a great season, everybody that's in and out, and thank you to everybody that's watching. And if you want to join, I know I'm using my hands, if you want to join the CSFL, the Canadian Simulated Fantasy Football League, message us on the Discord in the comments below. You can comment below. There's a Discord link in the description, and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss nothing else. And I'm gonna let you go on that point. I gotta go. Hey, have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Hope you enjoyed the recap show.